What's up guys, Stark here. In today's character spotlight we're taking a look at Frankenstein. Now there is one more 5-star servant that I have to do, and that's going to be Nikola Tesla, but I do not have any friends with him, so again I'm going to ask you guys, if you have him, feel free to add me. I will leave my ID in the description or a comment below, so you guys can add me, make it a little bit faster, and I'll just go on and accept anyone who sends me that request. So moving on here to the first of the new batch of 4-star servants that I'm going to be getting to, and it is of course going to be Frankenstein. Who else would it be? Now in the Arjuna video I talked about there are some characters that you just want to get for their aesthetic purposes alone, or maybe they're your waifu or something like that. Frankenstein is definitely one of those examples, and putting that aside though, she is definitely a pretty good servant in her own right as well. So moving on here to Frankenstein Stats. She is a berserker and a 4-star, so she will go up to level 80, and she will have 9,441 attack and 10,687 HP. So this will rank her overall at 29th in attack and 43rd in HP. Now at the end of the video, when I go ahead and do the overall rankings for her stats, when I give out the rating, it's going to be comparable to other 4-stars, not necessarily comparable to all the characters in the game, because naturally 5-stars are going to have better stats than 4-stars, so by judging by that comparison, then no 4-star will ever be able to have a higher rating than a 5-star, and personally I think that isn't always the case. I do think that there's probably some 4-stars that are better than some 5-stars, so those ratings are going to be comparable to their star rating. So maybe you'll see, for example, Hercules would have a 4.5 or maybe a 5-star in stats, whereas I did Arjuna had, I think I gave him a 3. So you might be thinking, well, Arjuna has 3, he's 3rd in attack, but why does Hercules have a higher star rating? That's why. I don't even know why I'm talking about this right now, but I just wanted to get that out of the way before I move on with the video. So if you do decide to max out Frankenstein's stats, she will end up with 13,431 attack and 14,958 HP. So moving on here to her servant skills, her first skill is going to be the Galvanism B skill, which is a self buff that will increase Noble Phantasm gain for 3 turns. This will start at 25% at level 1 and it'll go up to 45% at level 10. This is a really nice skill to help you increase your Noble Phantasm gain and keep spamming her Noble Phantasm, which is definitely one of her selling points, although it does have a big drawback, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. Moving on here to her second skill, it's going to be the Grief of a Hollow Lifeform D. This will target one enemy and it has a chance to inflict stun on that enemy for 1 turn, and it will also decrease that enemy's defense for 1 turn. So this has a 60% chance of stunning that enemy, which is pretty good, but again, I really don't like those random chance skills. And then the decrease on the defense is 10% at level 1 and 20% at level 10. So really it's not too much of a decrease, but it's still something, and it's pretty nice, especially if you get that stun off. There is an interlude quest that you can do to power up the second skill, and that will only slightly raise the amount of the decrease on the defense by 10%. So it doesn't increase the chance to inflict stun. I was hoping that it would maybe bump it up to 80%. But unfortunately it doesn't do anything for the stun chance, which kinda sucks. Moving on here to her third and final skill is going to be the Overload C skill. This will be a self buff that will increase Noble Phantasm strength for 1 turn, but it will also inflict burn to herself for 5 turns. So this isn't necessarily as bad as it might sound. You do get a 20% increase for your Noble Phantasm strength at level 1, and it goes up to 30% at level 10, and then the bird damage is 300 across the board for 5 turns. Now I say this isn't necessarily as bad as it sounds, because most of the times, or more often than not, you want to just use your Noble Phantasm once, and then if she dies, she did her job and you can move on. Or you're going to bring Martha or someone else into the fight that can remove debuffs, and you pretty much only use this skill after or the turn you're going to be using your Noble Phantasm. So you could use this and then your Noble Phantasm and then have your debuff remove those debuffs on the following turn. So overall that burn isn't going to be too much of a problem, and you do get a pretty good increase for your Noble Phantasm strength when you go ahead and decide to use it and burst down whatever wave you're on. Moving on here to her class skills, she has one, and that is going to be the Madness Enhancement D, which will increase Buster card effectiveness by 4%. Moving on here to her Ascension and Skill Enhancement materials. For her Ascension materials, she's going to need some Homunculus Babies, some Lanterns, some Bones, and some Gears. And then for her Skill Enhancement, she's going to need more Bones, more Homunculus Babies, the Crystals, and the Gears. Moving on here to her command cards and her Noble Phantasm. She has 1 Quick, 1 Arts, and 3 Buster. So you do want to primarily use her in a Buster team, but you can throw her on a Quick team as well, because her Noble Phantasm is quick, so you can, work in some teams there. It's going to be a little bit trickier to do, but it's definitely possible. So as I said, her Noble Phantasm is quick, and it will deal really powerful damage to all enemies, and it will also decrease critical hit rate for 3 turns up to all enemies on the overcharge. However, it will inflict stun on herself for 2 turns. So this was the drawback I was talking about, where she will stun herself for 2 turns. However, if you are using someone like Martha, you can wipe out that debuff. But if you do decide to use Martha and do that, then you're giving up 2 of your slots for those 2 characters, and it's going to be really hard to make a team that synergizes with just 1 extra slot on your team. However, it's definitely possible to do. So she's not necessarily a bad option to use on this team, especially if you're focusing on using Frankenstein's Noble Phantasm. So it's definitely something worth considering. There is an interlude quest you could do to help power this up to do a little bit more damage and increase the decrease on the critical hit rate for the enemies. But it's not a huge increase, but again, anything is better than nothing, so definitely do that interlude quest as quickly as possible to get that boost in the Noble Phantasm. So moving on here to some of the craft essences that you could use on this character. At level 10 Bonds, you unlock a way to become human craft essence, and this will increase quick card effectiveness of all allies by 15% while on the field. So this is just your generic quick card increase craft essence. Other than that though, my main suggestions are to just use craft essences that can increase your Noble Phantasm at the start of the fight, so Kaleidoscope will be your best option, but if you don't have that, you can use the Imaginary Element to help boost your Noble Phantasm at the start of the fight to get your spam going. Use that maybe on wave 1 to get that wave 1 clear, and on wave 2 generally it's not going to be too much of a problem, so you can even wait out that stun if need be. Increase your gauge again and then go ahead and use your Noble Phantasm on the boss stage if it's ready. So moving on here to the character in review conclusion type portion of this video. Still not still not perfected yet. Still working on the tweaks and things like that. So do bear with me. The graphics aren't ready just yet, but I still promise you that they will eventually show up in these videos. Overall though, for her stats, I am going to be giving her a 3. As far as ratings for the 4 stars, I believe overall for 4-star ratings she is 7th in max attack and like 22nd in max HP. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do believe it is somewhere around there. So she definitely doesn't have the best overall stats. She does have some really high attack stats though, which is always really nice. And then for her skills, I'm giving her a 3.5 out of 5. I would give her a 4, but she does have those negative effects on her skills, so it kind of forces you to use a debuff remover if you want to focus solely on her. So without those, then she would be like really high, maybe like a 4, 4.5, because her Noble Phantasm does do quite a bit of damage, and her other skills are pretty nice as well. Unfortunately though, like there's the drawbacks like I mentioned with the burn and the stun, and the fact that her second skill only has a chance to stun. It definitely knocks down a few points, so I have to drop it for that. But overall, it's still really good. As for versatility, I'm going to give her a 3. She is a berserker, so she is more effective against pretty much every class. However, like I said before, with her skills, there's a lot of negative effects. She's really good though for like wave clearings and things like that. However, as a berserker, there is, in my opinion, a better berserker that does what she does, but better, being Lancelot. So if I had to choose between the two for the things that I'm trying to do for like wave clearing and things like that, Lancelot generally will, in my opinion, take the nod. So that does kind of knock her down because she is a berserker. Maybe if she was a different class, she could definitely see some increase in points there. But since she is a berserker, there's not only one better than her, but I believe there's another one with Hercules being better than her as well. Moving on here to the aesthetics. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I am quite a fan of this character. I will give her a 4-star in aesthetics. I want her just solely for the fact that I like her character, her voice actress, and, you know, her movesets and appearances and things like that. So again, like I said, the aesthetics doesn't actually count for your overall rating. So it's just something I want to throw in there just because I know people do care about it a lot. So overall, at the end, her overall star rating will end up being a 3 out of 5. So overall, not too bad. Definitely not too good. I think her being a berserker actually hurts her a little bit. She's still definitely a very good character that can do a ton of damage if used properly. But as I said before, there are just 2 berserkers that, in my opinion, are just better than her. And it makes it very difficult to want to use her as opposed to the other 2, unless you are a huge fan of the character. One last thing here before I leave you guys is I was considering maybe changing the format of this conclusion to 10 stars instead of 5. I'm not 100% sure if I want to do that. I kind of like the 5, but I feel like if I do 5, then a lot of the characters are going to end up with the same ratings, and that might make it very difficult to distinguish which ones I actually prefer over other ones, because there's going to be a lot of characters with 3-star ratings or 3.5 ratings overall if I keep it with a 5-point system. And if I bump it up to 10, then maybe it'll help like give more of like how I feel like a tier list should look. It's up to you guys though. Let me know what you guys think. You know, I could definitely see 10 stars being too much, and you know, it might get a little messy. But I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. You know, just let me know what you guys think. As for now, I'm gonna stick with the 5 stars. But if enough people want me to jump to 10, then I will definitely go ahead and do that. And I will probably make a video once I'm done recapping all of the other previous servants that I've done videos on that I haven't done this for, and just mash it all into one video like someone else suggested in the comments. I was planning on doing that from the start once I finished recapping all of the servants currently available in the game. So anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this character spotlight. I will leave you guys here with her Noble Phantasm, and I will see you guys tomorrow.